Hi everyone, it's John and welcome to another edition of Cozy, Charming, Crazy Real Estate, where we talk about everything real estate. Today we're going to talk about getting ready for photography. And it doesn't matter if you're selling a home, you're selling land, or a rental property. Basically the process is the same. So we're going to talk about not how to operate a camera, set up lighting, or edit digital photographs. We're going to talk about what we can do as sellers and agents working with sellers before, during, and after the photo shoot, and we're going to hit on a couple do's and don'ts that are very important. So let's get started. There's two major things we can do before the photo shoot, and the first thing is to put together a scene list. A scene list is simply a list of the features of your home that you believe are special, that should be featured in the photographs. It could be a hot tub, it could be high-end appliances in the kitchen, it could be a freshly remodeled bathroom that should be featured. It might be something as simple as a beautiful sunrise or a gorgeous sunset. It could be the landscape lighting that you have outside that really looks very pretty when it's dark out and you turn it on. Anything that makes your home special, you want to put on your scene list. We're going to give that scene list to the photographer when we schedule that photographer to come out and take the picture. Now, it's very important that we do that at the very beginning, at the time we hire the photographer, because most photographers have a shot list, and that shot list is very standard for your type of property, where they say, well, I need this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot. That's what my experience tells me. Well, your scene list is going to be looked at, and it gives the photographer an idea of, well, okay, my standard shot list covers that, but here's some special items I should add to my shot list, so I only have to work off one list. It also helps the photographer understand if they need to schedule multiple visits because you have different features such as a sunrise or a sunset that occur at specific times, or they need to be there during the hours of darkness to capture that beautiful landscape lighting. Whatever that is on there that is a requirement outside the normal shot list, the photographer needs to know about it so they can bring the right equipment and come at the right time and allocate enough time to get all the good shots. The other thing that we need to do is get the property ready to view. Now, in our previous video, getting ready for showings, we talked about things that you can do the day before and the day of, let's say, an open house or scheduled showings to get the property ready so it's shown as good as it can be. And I will put a link down below. Please have a look at that video, and that can help you. It's very simple, cleaning any final last minute decluttering. Even though you have probably done all the repairs, you've completed your inspections, you're probably already decluttered, but it's always good to put a nice little shine on the property right before showings. We're going to consider that the photo session is basically a very important showing. Now, during the photo session, the seller and the seller's agents are not normally there. However, sometimes they can be. If the photographer is also doing video and is featuring the agent in the video, perhaps introducing the property, even guiding the tour as the video is taken inside the property. However, if you have hired a photographer, if you're taking the pictures yourself or your agent is taking the photographs, then maybe it's not as important. But if you have hired a photographer to come in, you've given them the scene list, you basically want to leave them alone or just be there if they say that they need something done. Photographers have what they call a workflow, and the workflow that's very typical is for them to show up. They already have their shot list, they've integrated your scene list into that shot list, and now they're going to walk through the property to make sure that it's ready to photograph. If doors need to be open or closed, they'll do that. If toilet seats need to be put down, they'll do that. Drapes need to be open to get in more natural light. They'll open the drapes if they're not already open. They'll align furniture to make everything look symmetrical. And they might ask you to declutter a little bit more. They may see things through the lens that in generally walking through doesn't look like clutter, but in the photographs might look like clutter. So if you are attending, they may ask you to remove some of those things for the shoot. So that's something that you can do, but generally you don't need to be there during the shoot. Now the photographer, depending upon what skills and equipment they have available, might offer several different types of photography. Certainly they're going to do the still photographs that are going to be shown in the MLS and in your other advertising, in brochures, etc. So we can expect that they will probably start by doing the still photography. When they're done with that, they're probably, if they're like most photographers now, they're going to do video. And video usually means they're going to move through the house with a camera mounted on a gimbal, which is a handheld stabilization device. And you might have the agent doing the guided tour voiceover at that time. You may even have the agent in front of the camera doing the tour. It depends on what you want to do, but the photographer will move through the house and definitely try to show the transitions from room to room while also showing the finer features of each room. Another thing that they will do on the inside that many photographers also now offer is a scanned floor plan. And the scanned floor plan is basically an architectural floor plan that they can capture in a camera in about 5 minutes for the average house, where they basically walk through and they scan the edges of the floor and maybe up a little bit, and they can very quickly scan the house, and from that get a nice floor plan that can be turned into a digital image to show potential buyers the layout of the property. So your photographer might also do that. Another thing that they might do is what we call overhead. Now in the old days, it used to be if you wanted to get a top-down picture, you had to either hire a helicopter, go to an adjacent building and go up on the roof and take pictures down, or you might even rent, and this is still done today, you might rent a boom truck. They go from $300 to $600 a day, and that can get you up about 60 feet in the air, very stable platform with which to take overhead photographs. Now, if you really want overhead video, you find that a lot of photographers either themselves or they will hire someone to do drone shots. And drone shots are very popular right now. They're kind of flashy. Different surveys say that some buyers are influenced by them, some aren't. However, if your photographer offers drone shots, you might want to ask them just to take some, and you can see how they would fit into your video, or if any stills from the overhead would be useful in your collection of still photographs. Something to think about though with overhead shots. If you're having someone take overhead shots with a drone, you want to be careful of not violating the privacy of your neighbors, not flying over people, etc. And your whoever pilots the drone, whether it's your photographer or a pilot they bring in, must be licensed by the FAA. And it is not based upon the size of the drone. The requirement for a license is not based on the requirement of the drone. It's based on the intended use of the photographs. So if you are taking photographs that you intend to use to sell your house, that's considered a commercial purpose. The pilot must have a license. It's called a Part 107 license, and ask your photographer. If someone shows up and they want to take drone photographs to use in your MLS listing or in your video, and they don't have a license, I would recommend you do not allow them to fly over your house, or do not use the pictures they produce, because it is possible that you could get a fine from the FAA if somebody reports you. So you want to make sure you have a licensed pilot. Now, a couple things to think about after the photographs have been taken, the video has been produced, the overhead, everything has been done. The couple of the do's and don'ts. One of the things you don't want to do is edit the photographs to take out things that don't look good. Remember that the vast majority of people that are going to come see your house, before they see your house, they're going to see the photographs. And so, truth in advertising, you want to show the house as it is. Now, here's a couple of examples of things that you may or may not want to do. Let's say we have this front picture of the house. I'm going to show it here. A very nice house that actually I listed and sold in Silicon Valley a couple of years ago. And we look at the first picture, hey, nice lawn. It was a very nice house. And however, above the roof we see a power line and we see an antenna. Now let's look at the next picture. Now this next picture we see that the power line is gone and the antenna on top of the house are gone. Now, it looks better, but we cannot use that picture, and it was not used. In fact, I just did the editing right before we made this video to show how it is possible to edit out things that might look busy in the picture, that might not look attractive in the picture. Well, editing those types of things out is deceitful advertising, and you're really not allowed to do that. Make sure that doesn't happen. Now, I'll give you an example. I don't have a photograph, but the concept is actually very simple. Let's say we're shooting inside a house, the walls are white, and we have some nice big windows, and where the big, nice big natural light comes in, the walls look their natural color under sunlight. However, in a corner where the sunlight doesn't reach coming in through the windows, we have a lamp on a table, and that corner is primarily lit by the lamp. Now, most lamps with incandescent light bulbs are going to throw off a different color of light, and it's usually going to be a little, we'll call it browner or orangish. And so the wall that is white might appear a little bit orange, a little bit brown, very light, but a little bit different under that lamp light. Now, are we required to show that photograph with as it was taken, or can we, in the editing process, take out some of that color in the corner and make it a little whiter? Well, we can make it a little whiter because, and we'll probably have no problem, because that is the natural color of the wall. Now, another thing that we want to be careful of is featuring items that do not sell with the property. And I'm going to use the example of a boat dock. Let's say you're selling a house on a lake, and on that lake you have in your backyard a nice dock. And normally there's a boat that you have that's tied up to that dock. So the photographer comes, they take pictures of the backyard, they take pictures of the lake, and everything looks good. They're taking a picture of the dock, and your boat just happens to be there. Is that a problem? Of course not, because that shows how a boat fits very nicely at the dock. Now, let's say we got some pictures taken that show the console, the controls of the boat, some close-ups of that, maybe close-ups of the seats in the boat, close-up of the engine, close-up of storage underneath. Now, that would be conveying the idea that that boat is being sold with the property, but it's not. That would be a type of false advertising based on the fact that we're featuring photographs of the boat even though the boat doesn't sell. Now I'm going to show another photograph, and this is one of my favorites. Sold this house in Contra Costa County here in the Bay Area about 2 years ago, and this was a house that was built in the 1970s, and the occupants had been living there up till now, since that time. And in the 1970s there were a lot of things installed that you don't see much anymore. Now the jar that you see from a blender, we found actually in a cabinet. We're about to throw it away, but as we're looking around the kitchen, the house was vacant. We thought it must have been left behind, but we see on the counter something that we couldn't quite figure out what it was. Well, we grabbed one of the discs on the countertop, and it turned out to be a cover. And what was underneath that cover was the other part of the blender. The actual motor and the drive for the blender was built in underneath the counter. And right next to it, we see a dial, another circle, and that dial, you simply turn it to turn the blender off, to turn the speed up, speed down, turn it off. And we just thought that was the greatest thing. So we took several photographs of that blender. It still worked great, and it was a conversation piece when people visited the house, made people remember the house. And that jar, and obviously the built-in under-counter blender, was included in the sale of the property. It did convey. So it was kind of a fun feature, probably went away as soon as someone bought it. And they remodeled, but as people were looking at it, it was fun to feature and talk about. A couple things about the photographs themselves. As you're preparing them to go online, your photographer should understand, but if they don't, you should make sure that they know that the photographs should be formatted. Typical aspect, if you're taking the photographs yourself, working with your agent, you should know that most multiple listing services prefer to have the photographs in a landscape or sideways orientation, and the aspect ratio of about 4:3. We're going to use inches. It's not inches, but just any kind of measure. It's usually about 4 across the bottom and 3 up. Normally they will express, the MLS will express what size they want the pictures in pixels. Your photographer should be able to format those correctly. But you normally do want those. Now let's say in the 4:3 aspect ratio. Now let's say you have a tall window or a staircase that's very vertical, and you want to do a portrait or upright photograph of that feature of your home. It's okay to do that, but I recommend that you keep the height of those pictures the identical height of the landscape pictures, because as someone is looking through the photographs, they're looking through a viewer, and that viewer, if it has to change from the landscape orientation to the portrait and then back to the landscape orientation, that can be a little bit disruptive in looking at it. So when you format those, you want to format them to the vertical or portrait photographs the same height as the landscape photographs, so the viewer doesn't have to change a lot. So that is a quick overview of getting ready and then following up on your photography session. This information actually comes to us from Downpour Media, which is a wholly owned sister company of Cordon Real Estate, and does real estate photography. And I'm going to put a link to the blog post that contains this information on their website, and also include some shot lists and scene lists, so you will kind of get an idea of what those look like and understanding of what the photographer is looking like. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, please hit like. If you have any comments, questions, please put them down below. And I hope you will subscribe to Cozy, Charming, Crazy Real Estate. We'll be coming back at you another week with another video about everything real estate. Until then, please stay well. Take care.